A $25 gift card and perfume led to me being kicked out of my parents' house. I went to Miami for a week back in March to visit my older sister, who I haven't interacted with in a year and a half. When I got there, she took me out to some great places such as the Florida Keys, casino, steakhouse, etc. I had a great time, and I felt like I was living in the moment, as I am 21 years old. I almost shed a tear when I was in the plane going back north leaving my sister as she made sure I had a great time. After I came back home, I resumed to my life of living with my parent with a part-time job and going to community college like nothing happened. 2 months later in May, it was Mother's Day and I got up earlier than usual just to cook breakfast for my mom. After that, I spent the rest of the day in my room finishing up my schoolwork as I had assignments due that day. My dad came back home from work and took my mom out to dinner, but beforehand questioned why I didn't get my mother anything for Mother's Day. He was very annoyed that I didn't get her anything and just left me in the house while they went out to dinner. The next day, as I was leaving my final day in class, I went across the street to the mall and decided to go to a clothing store to buy a pair of clothes for my mother, as I decided to give her a late gift. I had no idea what size she wore, but I wanted to be sort of a surprise at the same time, so I decided to give her a $25 gift card to the store that I was in. I also decided to buy my sister from Miami a box of perfumes with her favorite rap artist on it that costed $16 as a sort of thank you gift for all the stuff we did back in March. Later that night, I gave my mom the gift card and she was like, "I don't even shop at this store. Why would you give me this?" I was confused because I did have memories of her shopping in there, and I was just like, "You like shopping for clothes every week. I thought this would be the best for you." This would be the start of something really bad. 2 days later, I went to send the box of perfumes off to my sister and went back home. When I went back home, my mom found out that I went to send in the package and she was like, "So you're going to give your sister something but give me absolutely nothing?" And I was like, "But I did give you something. What are you talking about?" And that genuinely pissed me off, but I was used to her behavior since she always acted like I did nothing for her. So I just went on with my day. Keep in mind that both my mom and dad are in their 50 feet. Later that day, I took a nap and woke up with a phone call from my sister who sounded like she was in distress, telling me to just send the package back because mom is mad that I got my sister something but her nothing. And that would get me infuriated so badly that I released my temper in one of the worst ways possible. I yelled to myself that my mom was an ungrateful asshole and punched the wall so hard that I accidentally created a hole in it. What followed with both my parents coming in, rightfully mad about the hole in the wall, with my mom violently screaming and crying at me, acting like I punched her in the face or physically abused her, all because she heard me say that I thought she was an asshole, and then yells that, "I've done everything for you and I have never in my life have called you an asshole. You never give me shit. You only give me $50 for rent. Fuck you. I'll tell everybody what you said about me. Get the fuck out. Get the fuck out of here." She says all of this as she gets up all in my face and hits me with my laptop. My dad pulls me by my arm out of my room like I was a little kid and he was like, "Oh hell no, you're not going to be disrespecting my wife." He then basically tells me without hesitation that I am being kicked out of the house and was no longer welcome. "Hey, I tried, but you refused to listen to me. I really did try to teach you so many things. I don't know what went wrong with you," my dad says as he was now and continually talking to me as if I was one of his biggest failures in his life. Everything happened so fast and so quick. It felt so surreal and I was puzzled of what happened. I had to process that. My own family wanted nothing to do with me anymore after what happened, and I was already struggling to make friends. Now it seemed like I was going to have no family as well and was also going to be homeless. To pause the story for a moment to give out my opinion, I have did a handful of things for my mother, such as take her out to breakfast at least once a month. Gave her $50, which is the amount that they literally said to give them when I had to start paying them to stay in their house. Bought her a $300 bike that she kept constantly complaining to me about because I was using her old bike only to barely even use after I bought it, and tried to cook for everyone a numerous amount of times. My mom pretends that none of that happened, and my dad will agree with everything my mom has to say and defend her even if I am in the right. Was I wrong to punch a hole in the wall? Obviously, yes, I was, and I even said that I was going to pay for the wall. I spoke to my big sister on the phone, told her that I was getting kicked out of the house, and she offered to let me stay at her place. I felt like she was my last hope. It was very kind of her to do that, and I thanked her for the offer. Later that night, after all that happened, I decided to check in a motel for a week until my ride to Miami because I did not want it to be in the house after all what happened. I just wanted to be alone. I went back to the house to bag up some supplies of my own and carry it to the motel in the middle of the night. The first night there, I could not sleep, so at around 7 a.m., I went to Walmart to shop for some things in order to pack up. Day 2, I nervously asked a coworker if she could help me with driving to my parents' house since I did not have a driver's license and was long overdue for one to pack some of my stuff with some bins to send to UPS. She agreed and dropped me off to the house while my parents were asleep, and I packed up my stuff, then proceeding to leave it there to get it the next night. Day 3 was interesting, but not in a good way. My coworker and I went back to my parents' house to get my stuff to send to UPS the next day. It was shortly after 12 a.m., and I went in the house as she stayed in the car. My dad caught me coming into the house, and we almost got heated with each other. I remember him saying, "I don't know how you got so messed up. I'm tired of you disrespecting me." I said to him, "You know, how am I even disrespecting you?" Then he raised his voice, and I just ignored him. The last thing I said to him was, "There's nothing you can say to me anymore. We're done." I saw one of my little sisters coming out of the room, and she was so scared. I told her that I would come to her school to say goodbye and apologize for everything that happened. My coworker wanted me to quickly get back in her car so I would not fight with my dad. We got out of there quick. She helped me lift some of my supplies, and I gave her $20 as a token of my appreciation for helping me, and she was extremely hesitant, but said, "Okay, fine. This the only time I'll take money from you, but you don't have to do this, you know." She also said that she felt really bad for me and to let her know if I needed anything. Later, at around 3 a.m., I went to get my bike from work, and a police officer pulled me over and asked why was I walking this time of night. Long story short, it led to me proceeding to telling him everything as I had extreme anxiety over the situation. He was kind enough to conversate with me and give me a number to a crisis hotline and his office number in case if I wanted to speak with him again. Later at 6 a.m., I went back to Walmart since I could not sleep again to get more stuff. I went out of the store and walked in the rain to McDonald's to get some oatmeal while still processing the information that my parents most likely hated me at this point. I went back to the motel and went to sleep, and then my big sister called me and said to not send anything off to UPS and to take it back to the house. She spoke to my mom and said that she wanted to call me. When my mom called me, she was all like, "I did not kick you out of the house. I was just mad that day and you hurt my feelings. You gotta stop taking things so literal." And all that, as I was just sitting here to myself like, what the fuck is even going on here anymore? She also said that they were looking for me and where I was staying at, and I told her she can come pick some of my stuff up from the hotel if she really meant that. That night, I had a talk with my manager at work, and I told them everything that happened, and I was like, "Now my mom said she doesn't want me gone. I don't know what's happening anymore." My manager had a heartfelt conversation with me, and we decided that I would be on leave without pay status until the end of July, only if I decide to come back. I said goodbye to my coworkers on my last day there, and the day came when it was time for me to go back to Miami, as I am currently now temporarily staying with my sister for God knows when to do a handful of stuff, including getting my driver's license. In conclusion, I really have no desire to go back to my parents. I feel like I have irritated and hurt them long enough. And at the end of the day, no matter how dumb the situation was, I still made my mom cry, and that is a sign that I should have moved out of their place a long time ago. I have realized that I have the same bad traits from my parents, such as anger issues and easily emotional. I had an anger problem ever since I was first grade, with the worst being in 5th grade, where I would get into multiple arguments and fights with all the students. I thought my anger problem was gone, but it turns out that I just became good at hiding it for a very long time. I had no real friends growing up because I was scared of talking to people, and my parents did not take me seriously and only cared that I got decent grades in school, and I really wasted 3 years of my life after high school still living with those two, thinking that I was doing something for them while in actuality I supposedly did nothing for them. I want to move forward in life. I want to be out on my own now, since I was previously not willing to do that because I was so socially inept. But now, I am willing to try. My sister told me that it's best to go back to my parents because paying rent is complicated, but I honestly don't even care anymore. I just don't want to hurt any more people ever again. TLDR, in March, I visited my older sister in Miami after not seeing her for a year and a half. Tensions rose when I returned home and failed to meet my parents' expectations on Mother's Day, leading to a heated argument and me being told that I was being kicked out of the house. I chose to spend a week in a motel before going back to stay with my sister, reflecting on my strained relationship with my parents and anger issues. I've decided I want to move forward and leave my parents after years of disappointment, hurt, and social anxiety. My life was ruined at my previous college. Fake names used throughout this post to comply with the sub-rules. I, 21 male, can say I went through hell and back after joining my first college, and that hell still haunts me to this day. I entered my first college on August 2006, 2021, with hopes of building a foundation for a prosperous future. "Work hard, I'm proud of you," said Appa, while hugging me just before him and Amatamil, for father and mother respectively, were about to leave the dorm room after helping me unpack. I had made it a point to do everything in my power to fulfill my parents' desire of wanting me to work hard, something they had instilled me early on in my life. I had thought that my first college would give me the opportunity to cultivate close friendships throughout the 4 years I had anticipated to spend there. Little did I know the hell that awaited me going forward. On that day, I had met someone named Jerry at the student center while we all awaited a welcome event, which subsequently was canceled owing to a thunderstorm that day. My first impressions of Jerry were that he was ambitious and had a unique sense of humor, which I did not anticipate where that was headed. I was unaware that Jerry had feelings for me, which was conveyed to me by his roommate and my friend, Jagjit. I then proceeded to utilize that information to set the record straight with Jerry, saying that I was not into him, but I'd be more than happy to remain his friend. Jerry acted like he understood, but then proceeded to love bomb and constantly call me on the phone. I was fed up. Jerry's harassment started to spiral out of control towards my fall break. I recall going to a family friend's house for a Navratri celebration, and Jerry called me several times throughout, to which my friend and I remarked, "So that's what these idiots act like." I recall I got at least 20 phone calls in a sub-mile distance, which only amplified. After returning, Jerry had love-bombed me, and a bystander remarked I was a homophobe for not accepting Jerry's affections. Jerry also had a friend named Camille, who happened to be a trans girl, this will be relevant soon, who also aided in his antics. One such incident of Jerry's love bombs resulted in a classmate of mine, Dev, concerned for the safety of his floormate Tanvi. I was left to clean up the pieces while Dev and Camille got away. I had warned Tanvi's roommate, Melissa, about this, but little did I realize I could have benefited from that warning. I had gone home that Saturday, October 16th, after taking a final exam and enjoying an all-nighter with Jajit and his friend Jocelyn. Jerry and Camille did attempt to contact me, but I was somehow able to avoid them. I returned to campus on the 18th and done what I would have usually done. Dropped my things off at my room, and then went to my statistics class. I subsequently returned to the dormitory lounge to do some homework, and lo and behold, Jerry and Camille were off to their usual activities yet again. I had put my phone on DND and carried on with my homework conversation, but I did not anticipate those two camping out in front of the lounge for the entire duration I was there. This then culminated to them strong-arming me into coming to their friend Andrea's room, which I did only to witness Jerry drinking out of my water bottle using his mouth. The next day, the 19th, I had attended my 9:30 a.m. class and grabbed a bite to eat from the dining hall. I had marched up to Jerry's room intending to have a talk with him about what him and Camille were doing over the past few weeks. Jerry dismissed my concerns and noticed my backpack was on the ground, to which he holds it for ransom, citing, "I need to take a Belgian chocolate." I profusely protest to which my cries fell on deaf ears, to which I took the Belgian chocolate. Camille later called to inform me that Belgian chocolate was a marijuana edible, to which I screamed, "Oh my fucking God," at the top of my lungs. I proceed to Camille's room and to Jerry's, to which he pretends he is suicidal. The next morning, the 20th, I had returned to Jerry's room with the intent of making him pay a price for drugging, assaulting, harassing me. I had popped my belt 3 times, to which he repeats his same bullshit, and I then proceed to go to class. I had trouble focusing on my statistics exam, to the extent where I rushed it just to file a complaint with my resident advisor, Title IX. Bystanders all started characterizing me as a snitch, and Jerry, Camille, their respective circle, all start harassing me with the hope I drop the case. I had thought these people were a small minority of all people on campus, but little did I know as time went on, snitch was going to change to homophobe, transphobe, and anti-Semite. A month later, a hearing was scheduled. Nothing had changed, even though a restraining order was implemented by the school. Jerry had attempted to persuade me to not follow through with the case, citing various bullshit reasons. I feigned I would, but Jerry then found out I had no intentions of doing so, which resulted in him kicking my door and the water fountain. I felt nobody truly cared, considering much of my peers seemed to care more about Jerry, and demonized me as playing with his well-being. I had reminded myself these were very few people, but I had no idea what was in store ahead. My assaulter won the hearing, citing his background as a queer Jewish man, even though he didn't care about Judaism until maybe the week before that. This then turned into various accusations of bigotry being thrown at me. These rumors only got worse over time, and throughout the remainder of my time at that college I had many people turn their backs on me, despite doing nothing wrong. I had attempted to remind myself that those people will not matter, but being isolated did a number on me. The academics aspect of that college were mixed. I had originally joined as a political science major, but after taking an economics and accounting class, I wanted to change my major to accounting. My major change was denied, and I was devastated. After running out of steam from all these rumors having a significant impact on my life, I withdrew from that college in August 2023 to pursue better opportunities and take care of my mental health. After having a serious breakdown, I had written in another subreddit about my mental health, to which this girl named Stacy read this post to hear friends. Someone I knew, Nicole, claimed I was responsible and I should be okay with that, even though I obliged to her request to not tell others about her delusions and even dropped everything I was doing to help her. I had come to learn two people I considered close friends. Nicole and Sriram constantly were engaging in these rumors and talking about me behind my back. They had started saying I hate them because I am a Republican, despite them doing some horrible thing to me. I hate how this place ruined my well-being, both academically and mentally. It's a long road ahead, but I'm so glad I don't go to that hellhole, and my parents have been supportive every step of the way. I've been abused all my life, and I never knew the abuse in 19 experienced was mostly psychological, but I did get beat from time to time. I've been hit by my close family members maybe times in my life. The last time was quite violent. My father hit me, and Fermi put his hand on my mouth and stopped me from breathing, while also pushing me towards the wall. You might be wondering, what did you do? Well, I told him to calm down. I had spilled water on my own table, and I was cleaning it. He got mad, and I told him to calm down since 1. I'm fixing the problem. 2. There is no real problem, it's just a little water. 3. It's completely unnecessary to get mad. To him it was a prime act of disobedience and disrespect, though. He has always been like this. I'll give an example. Bello. When I was 10 years old, he forced me to eat an omelet I had burned, probably my first time cooking. Can't remember. Problem was, it was really fucking burned, like charcoal. I started crying and he would call me a spoiled kid and tell me to eat. He would count down from 10. He would also put his face really close and intimidate me. He repeated these acts for roughly 40 minutes. I remember that cause I kept track of the clock. I still remember how he stood behind me and would say, "Eat," in a menacing tone. I felt threatened. I had been hit before. I had seen my mom be hit before, and he is unpredictable, so I felt like he might hit me. I was very afraid. He sometimes still says "eat" in the exact same tone, and it scares me to shit, even though I could probably beat the shit out of him today. My mom never helped me when he did that. I think she watched TV. I sometimes contemplate why he did that. It was confusing to me because they say parents are tough out of love for their child, but no parent would want a child to eat a piece of charcoal. I believe he did this because he didn't like me telling him, "No, I won't eat this shit." My act of disobedience is why he did all this. He wanted me to be obedient, irrespective of why I am disobedient. That is still a running theme in our relationship today. He wants me to never question him in any way whatsoever. As a result, I feel suffocated 100% of the time he is around. My older sister has always blamed me and gaslighted me for as long as I can remember. My whole life I have been blaming myself for shit I haven't done, and I felt like my sister being mad at me, screaming at me, and hating me is justified because it is always my fault. As a result, I have no sense of self-credibility. How could I? I don't even know what I'm doing, and I'm hurting people while just existing. The narrative I've been fed by her. She also just kind of does everything she fucking can to hurt me. She genuinely derives joy from proving stuff to me and being better than me. My mom kicked me out once more on that bellow, and I will never remember how overjoyed my sister was to stand there while I was leaving, ridiculing me and telling me how much I deserve to learn a lesson and how spoiled I am. She seemed to enjoy it a lot. My mom's love is extremely conditional. Whenever I acted in ways she didn't like, she would tell me she didn't love me or didn't know me. What's interesting about my mom is that she did this irrespective of why I behaved like I did. If I was justifiably pissed, I would just get the cold shoulder. If I did something bad and my mom didn't care, I would get no punishment. This destroyed my sense of self-credibility even further. My mom kicked me out once for not taking the dog out when it was my sister's turn. She had an exam, so my mom had told me it was my responsibility. I would have loved to help her, but she very obviously didn't have an exam. She was watching TV dramas, and I don't think she had 8 exams in the span of 2 weeks. She watched that specific drama for the entirety of those weeks without studying. It was in the middle of December, and I live in a cold country, so I had to freeze during the night. It was by far one of my worst experiences. I had a couple bad friends who would ridicule me a lot. And by a lot, I really mean a lot. Like every day, almost every hour, and I never knew it wasn't normal. I just thought I couldn't take a joke, like I had been told by my family when they justified their abuse. I remember in 6th grade when 2 of my friends used to take ugly pictures of me with weird filters on the school iPads and airdrop them to each other. They used to look at them and laugh. They did this for a couple months and only stopped when I grew numb to it. It was surreal. The point of the whole thing was the joy they derived from causing me psychological distress. Then they started with he. Next thing, they made fun of small errors in my speech. I always had better grades, so they'd call me a nerd. I was also kind of funny, so they'd call me cringe. Whatever good trait I had became bad. Whatever bad trait I had became identity-defining and a source of ridicule for their entertainment. How can tormenting someone else bring someone so much joy? How can the people of my life have so little empathy for me? So do I cry? Do I get mad? I want to cry and get mad. That's what I wanted to do as a kid, but I look ridiculous mad and I am funny when I cry. So I have never been taken seriously when crying and ridiculed further for being ridiculous when mad. That was by far the worst. Being mad to the highest possible point, and everyone simply laughs at you and make fun of you. I never knew none of this was normal. It's normal in that it happens to people, but I never knew that it isn't something that should be tolerated and that people deserve to be treated better. Be treated with respect. I never knew. Never. At least I know now. At least I can recognize that almost none of the things I have blamed myself for and hated myself for were actually my fault. I can be at peace knowing I was never as bad as I thought I was. Sorry for ranting. I just wanted to write this and sort my thoughts. I just needed to get it out. I've never told anyone.